My parents begged me to help with the mortgage, not knowing I'd already paid $267,000. So I gave them 30 days to get out of my house. When my uncle emailed me that video, I felt my entire world turn on its axis. My parents and my brother Theodore sat around our old kitchen table in Phoenix, talking about me as if I were a burden. The bright Arizona sun shone through the windows, providing a warm warmth that seemed to mock the chilly words said. "And Lindsay only helps because she owes us," my mother remarked, her voice full of hate. "And after everything we've done for her, paying the mortgage is the least she can do." My brother Theodore added up with a chuckle. "Yeah, and she acts like she's doing us some huge favor. What a joke." The worst part was my father's silent nod of agreement. The man who had once taught me to ride a bike and assisted me with my arithmetic homework now sat there, enabling them to tear me apart. The video was grainy, certainly recorded without their knowledge, but their sentences were crystal clear. I saw it 3 times, each time leaving me with an odd combination of numbness and clarity. For the past 4 years, I'd been paying hefty mortgage payments through my LLC, Divine Investments. They assumed they were paying payments to a bank and never read the fine print of the deal my financial consultant had helped establish. Every month they made a modest amount while I covered the majority of the payment, all the while complaining about my minimal assistance. My Uncle Jason's message arrived right after. "You need to see this, Lindsay." I couldn't stay quiet anymore. "They've been talking like this for months." I sat in my home office glancing at the spreadsheets that listed every payment I'd made. The stats didn't lie. More than $200,000 was invested in keeping them comfy in that residence. My hands should have been quivering with rage, but they remained still when I pulled up the mortgage agreement. I smiled slightly as I remembered the purchase option language that my financial consultant had insisted on inclusion. "Oh, just in case," she had responded. Looking back, I wonder if she was aware that something like this could happen. My next payment was due in 2 weeks, and for the first time, I understood exactly what I had to do. I grabbed up my phone and typed a brief message to my uncle. "Thank you for showing me the truth. Don't worry, I won't let them know you sent this, but things are about to change." I had always been the family's safety net, despite their refusal to admit it. 4 years ago, when the Phoenix housing market collapsed, and they were about to lose their home, I stepped in. I was 27 years old at the time, and I had already established myself as a successful software development manager. The irony was that they were never supportive of my professional choice. They wanted me to take over my father's struggling real estate firm. "Software is not a career for a woman," my mother would say, her lips pursed in disgust. "Your brother Theodore is the one with the real business sense." But Theodore, despite his economic acumen, nearly bankrupted the family business within 2 years of taking over. When they needed assistance with their mortgage, I contacted my financial advisor, Kate. She proposed a novel solution: form an LLC, buy the house through it, and make them believe they were still working with a bank. That way, I could defend myself legally while also aiding them. It seems perfect at the moment. I could aid without having to deal with their pride. The arrangement went smoothly. Divine Investments LLC became the mortgage holder, and I boosted their monthly payments without their knowledge. They preserved their dignity, while I kept my family steady. My Uncle Jason was the only one who knew the truth, having overheard Kate and me talking about it at a family gathering. "You're too good to them, Lindsay," he said then. "But they don't deserve your kindness." Naturally, I stood up for them. They're my family. They might not understand my choices, but they've always given me a home. Now, after watching that film for the 4th time, I realized how mistaken I had been. Their words echoed in my head. "She owes us. What a joke. The least she can do." Each sentence felt like a dagger being inserted deeper. I opened my laptop and accessed the LLC's account. The next mortgage payment was due on the 15th, only 2 weeks away. They had never been late before, and they transferred their half like clockwork. But now that I knew how they truly felt, I had no intention of covering the remainder this time. Allow them to suffer the consequences of their ingratitude. Allow them to deal with the bank on their own. They had no notion that their daughter, the dutiful, worthless burden, was also their landlord. The concept made me smile. Sometimes karma requires a little shove. The video was not the end of things. The next day, My uncle Jason emailed me additional evidence. Images of family group chat discussions from which I had been purposely omitted. They constructed it 6 months ago and dubbed it, family finances. Every communication felt like a worse betrayal than the last. And Lindsay thinks she's so special with her technical job, Theodore wrote. She barely helps with the mortgage while I'm here every day running Dad's business. My mother's remark made my blood run cold. We should ask her for more money. She's single, has no children. What else does she spend it on? After all we've sacrificed to raise her, she can't even support her family. I retrieved my financial records, shaking slightly as I computed the total. Over the last 4 years I have contributed $267,843 to their mortgage through Divine Investments, while they have only paid $52,500. The monthly payments to the bank comprised the majority of the mortgage. They had no idea I was covering an extra $5,400 every month. My phone vibrated with a message from my mother. "Sweetie, could you come to dinner this Sunday? We need to discuss something important." I knew exactly what the something was. They intended to ask for additional money, most likely accompanied by emotional manipulation and guilt-tripping. The thought of sitting there pretending I had no idea what they truly thought of me made my stomach turn. I phoned Kate, my financial advisor. "I need to know my options with the purchase agreement." "Sent," I replied. "I had a feeling you might," she said without surprise. "Remember the provision we included. If they miss a payment, Divine Investments can use the purchasing option right away. The house would be yours outright, and they would be month-to-month renters." A plan began to form in my head. What if they were late with the rent? The standard Arizona eviction laws would apply. You would be within your rights to give them notice. She paused. "Lindsay, are you certain you want to go there?" I considered years of condescension, of being the family ATM while they teased me behind my back. I thought about Theodore destroying our father's business while they praised his business sense. I thought about every snarky remark about my career, my life choices, and my alleged responsibilities to them. "Yes," I responded, my voice steady. "I am sure. But I'm not going to tell them anything, yet. Allow them to believe that everything is normal for the time being." I texted my mother back. "Of sure I will come to dinner. Looking forward to it." The heart emoji seemed ironic but necessary. After all, they'd taught me well. Sometimes the best retribution necessitates a flawless poker face. The next mortgage payment was due in 13 days, and for the first time since the arrangement began, I would not be present to catch them as they fell. Sunday dinner felt like an exercise in self-control. I arrived at their Phoenix house at exactly 6 p.m., with the sinking sun painting the desert landscape in orange and purple. The house, my house technically, looked just like it had for the previous 20 years. The familiar aroma of my mother's lasagna floated through the air, a deliberate choice designed to remind me of happier days. "Linz, sweetie." My mother ran to embrace me, her designer bracelet catching the sun. I noted it was new. Probably purchased with money they should have used to pay their mortgage, which was due in 9 days. Theodore sat at the dining table, looking more like a smuggler than normal in his pressed business casual outfit. "Face it, sis. Good for you for making time for your family." I grinned as I remembered his remark about barely helping. If only he knew how much his entire lifestyle depended on my generosity. "I always have time for my family," I said, the irony thick in my mouth. My father emerged from his study with his reading glasses perched on his nose. He was going over some documents that I noticed were bank statements. The image almost made me giggle. They were carefully planning their pitch. "But before we eat," my mother said, setting down the lasagna, "we wanted to talk about something important." She looked at my father, who nodded encouragingly. "Of course," I replied, serving myself a portion. "What's on your mind?" Theodore cleared his throat. "Well, as you know, Dad's business has been experiencing some difficulties. The real estate market is not what it used to be." I took a slice of lasagna and chewed slowly. Despite the fact that the Phoenix market is stronger than ever, the company has faced hurdles since Theodore took control. "And we've been thinking," my mother said, reaching for my hand across the table, "about how fortunate we are to have such a successful daughter. Your father and I made significant sacrifices to ensure that you received a solid education. I saw her performance with fresh eyes. The gentle touch, the reminder of their efforts. Everything was perfectly choreographed. But the mortgage payment has become quite a burden, my father said, his voice carrying that distinct tone of paternal authority that he had always used to make me feel small. And with you doing so well in your computer work. Software development, I corrected immediately, even though they had never tried to learn the difference. Right, he said dismissively. Well, we hoped you would be able to help with the monthly installments. After all, this is also your family's home. If only they realized how much of it was already mine. We're only asking for an extra $2,000 per month, my mother explained hastily. It's not much, considering your salary. I took another slice of lasagna, using the opportunity to keep my cool. They wanted $2,000 extra when they had no idea I had already paid more than $5,000? The audacity was nearly astounding. I'll think about it, I finally responded, keeping my voice neutral. Times are a bit uncertain right now. Uncertain? Theodore scoffed. Please, we all know you're doing well. Unlike those of us who are working hard to preserve this family's history. I smiled, thinking of the notification their bank would send if they missed their payment next week. You're correct, Theodore. Sometimes we all receive what we deserve. After dinner, I excused myself to go to the restroom, but made a purposeful detour by my father's study. The door was ajar, and I could hear my parents and Theodore conversing quietly. I paused, my heart beating, as their words faded away. She's not going to help, Theodore remarked, his tone harsh. Did you see how she just sat there acting all superior with her tech money while our business was struggling? Patience, my father responded. See, I have another option. Remember those investment documents I found in her cloud storage when she used our Wi-Fi last month? She's been hiding money from us in some company called Divine Investments. My blood became chilly. They had snooped through my files on my last visit. I had unintentionally utilized their Wi-Fi without a VPN, and my cloud storage had synced automatically. I looked it up, my father added. It's a legitimate LLC and it's doing very well. She's been squirreling away money there instead of helping her family. And we raised a snake, my mother's voice added. We'll give her one more chance to help voluntarily. If not, I'll remind her about that time in college when she took money from your business account for her tuition. She thought we never knew, but we have proof. She'll have to help us then. I had to bite my lip to avoid laughing. The money they were referring to was borrowed with my father's approval when their tuition check bounced. I even paid it off within a month, with interest. I had emails that proved everything. Their attempt at blackmail was both sad and desperate. And if that doesn't work, says Theodore, we can always reach out to her company's HR department. Ask some questions about her mental stability. Maybe she's been stealing company resources for personal projects. That would get their attention. The nonchalant way they contemplated damaging my career chilled my veins. These people were not family. They were parasites, with family masks. I silently returned to the restroom, flushed the toilet for show, and returned to the dining room. They returned shortly later, each wearing a prepared smile. Lindsay dear, my mother lovingly asked me, have you given any thought to what we discussed about helping more with the mortgage? I met her eyes steadily. Actually, I have. You're right. Family should help family. I'll have an answer for you in about 8 days. The timing was not random. Their mortgage payment was due in 8 days, and I knew what would happen if they missed it. Divine Investments would eventually reveal its genuine ownership. 8 days? Theodore frowned. Why such a specific timeline? I stood up and gathered my handbag. I just need to check some things with my financial advisor. You understand, right? Being careful with money is just good business sense. I grinned at Theodore, echoing their favorite phrase. My mother led me to the door and pulled me into another deliberate hug. We knew you'd understand, sweetheart. Family always comes first. Yes, I said, recalling the eviction notice I had previously composed. Family always gets exactly what they deserve. While driving home, I contacted my uncle Jason. You were right about them, I remarked when he responded. But don't worry, I'm done playing the silent partner in their little drama. It's time for the final act. The week passed with painful slowness. My family continued their pressure campaign, sending regular texts about their dire financial circumstances. Each message increased my determination. I submitted everything to Kate, my financial consultant, who was helping me prepare for the impending showdown. When the paperwork is ready, Kate stated during our meeting 3 days before the payment was due, if they miss the payment, Divine Investments can exercise its purchase option immediately. I've also prepared the eviction notices, just in case. I nodded while reviewing the paperwork. And you're sure everything's legally sound? They can't fight this? Your father signed the agreement 4 years ago, she told me. He barely read it. He was too desperate for the bailout. Everything's perfectly legal. That evening, my brother launched his own attack. Hey sis, his text said. I was just talking to my friend in tech recruitment. Heard some companies are doing layoffs. Must be scary for you. Good thing you have family to fall back on. He proceeded. Speaking of which, about that help we discussed. The attempted manipulation was so obvious it was almost hilarious. I read the message to my Uncle Jason over coffee the next day. They never change, he remarked, shaking his head. Your aunt and I watched them do this to everyone in the family. It's why we distanced ourselves years ago. Did you know they went through my files when I visited? I requested an explanation. Not surprised, he responded. They did the same to your cousin when she stayed there last year. They're always looking for leverage. He paused. Are you ready for the fallout? They won't take this well. I considered their threats to contact my company's HR, their efforts to blackmail me, and their years of accepting my assistance while insulting me behind my back. I'm ready. They made their choice. Now they'll face the consequences. My mother called 2 days before the money was due. Sweetie, we need your answer about the mortgage help. Times are tough and family needs to stick together. Don't worry, Mom, I responded, my voice firm. Everything will be clear very soon. That night I got an email from the family's bank. They attempted to send funds from their account to Divine Investments, but the payment bounced. They were already overdrawn. I forwarded the notice to Kate. Here we go, she responded. Want me to start the proceedings tomorrow? I reflected on the lasagna meal, their smug expressions, and their casual discussion about damaging my career. I reflected on the years of manipulation, the continual demands, and the ceaseless ingratitude. No, I typed back. Let's wait until the payment officially fails. Let them spend the next 2 days thinking everything's fine. They taught me well. Timing is everything. I opened my laptop and started writing an email to my company's HR department, detailing my family's threats and adding the information Uncle Jason had compiled. It's better to get ahead of their possible attacks. The end was near, and I was leaving nothing to chance. Sometimes, I mumbled to myself, the best revenge is simply allowing individuals to suffer the consequences of their own behavior. The payment deadline has come and gone. Divine Investments' automated system dispatched its default message at precisely 9 a.m. I checked my phone, counting down the seconds till the inevitable call. It took exactly 12 minutes. Lindsay, my mother said frantically. Something's wrong with our mortgage payment. The bank is saying we defaulted, but that's impossible. We need your help immediately. Actually, I said with a smile, Divine Investments isn't a bank. It's an LLC. My LLC, to be specific. The stillness at the other end was deafening. What? She eventually asked in a whisper. Check your email, I advised. You'll find a notice explaining that due to your default, Divine Investments is exercising its purchase option. The house is now legally mine. Your status has been changed to month-to-month tenants. This is a joke, she muttered. No joke. I've been covering the majority of your mortgage for 4 years while you all mocked me behind my back, called me a burden, plotted to blackmail me, and threatened my career. So how did you? Uncle Jason showed me the video. He showed me everything. Now about your tenancy, your first rent payment is due in 30 days. I suggest you start looking for somewhere else to live. My father's voice suddenly broke through. They'd put me on speaker. She's ungrateful. Thanks for watching and diving into this wild family drama with me. If you love Reddit family drama, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next one. My parents tried to give my inheritance to their golden daughter, but my grandparents had a surprising twist in store. The male 28-year-old hails from a family with a complicated and long history of favoritism. My younger sister Amy, 25, has always been chosen by my parents, particularly my father, over me. This predilection began in childhood and only worsened as we grew older. Amy was the golden child in my early memories. When I was 5 and she was 2 years old, our parents threw her an elaborate birthday party complete with professional face painters, a bouncy castle, and a petting zoo. That year, I celebrated my birthday with a store-bought cake and a little family lunch. This helped set the tone for years to come. As we grew older, the disparities became clearer. Amy always got the coolest toys, the best clothes, and the most attention. I remember saving months of allowance for a new bike when I was 10 years old. Amy wanted one as well, so when she saw it, she threw a fit. Rather than teaching her about waiting and saving, my parents went out and bought her an even nicer bike than mine. Another area where bias was visible was in education. Amy's parents attended all of her school festivities, whereas they usually missed mine. In 4th grade, I played the lead role in the school play. I practiced for weeks with considerable enthusiasm. My parents arrived an hour late on the night of the performance, so they missed my key scene. They consoled Amy after she complained of a stomach ache. She was fine later on. They had simply lost track of the time they spent playing with her. In terms of academics, nothing I did seemed to enough. I joined the math club, got straight A's in middle school, and even won first place in a regional science fair. Though my parents were unconcerned about Amy's accomplishments, they offered her a celebratory supper and a new phone as encouragement to keep improving when she received a B+ on one of her weakest subjects. Specifically, high school was difficult. With an eye on their approval, I immersed myself in any activity I could. Along with maintaining a 4.0 GPA, I was the editor of the school newspaper and the debate team captain. Amy breezed through school, barely maintaining a C average and spending much of her time hanging out with friends. I was chosen from our university as one of 2 junior-year applicants to participate in a well-known summer program at Harvard. It was an honor, and I felt wonderful. When I informed my father the news over supper, he grumbled and shifted the conversation to Amy's upcoming dance performance. At least my mother said, "That's nice." But she moved on quickly. My parents were unable to transport me to the airport on the night Amy's concert occurred on the same day I was leaving Harvard because they wanted to see Amy perform. I asked my friends' parents for a ride. Another painful experience was the college admission process. I spent months refining my writings, participating in extracurricular activities, and preparing for the SAT. Several prestigious institutions accepted me, and I was awarded a substantial scholarship to my preferred choice. When I told my parents about this at supper, their reaction was barely acceptable. "That's good, but don't let it run to your head. College isn't everything," my father warned me. "Just remember about us when you're off becoming a big shot," my mother remarked. My parents, on the other hand, were very understanding when Amy barely graduated from high school and decided not to attend college. They appreciated her for knowing herself and challenging conventional norms. They did something they never did for me. They paid for her car as a graduation gift. This repeated favoritism caused me significant emotional distress. Throughout my teens and early 20s, I battled anxiety and sadness. I began therapy in college and realized that my parents' behaviors were not my responsibility. Years of effort were required to improve my self-esteem and learn to validate myself without relying on my parents' approval. Despite the fact that my immediate family did not support me, I was able to live a respectable life. By the time I graduated from college with honors, I had a respectable job in finance and had even acquired my own home by the age of 27. Although my parents aren't, I'm proud of what I've accomplished. Here is where the present drama begins. On my father's side, my grandfather died not long ago. He left a big estate and was a successful entrepreneur who began from scratch. In his will, he divided his property evenly to his grandchildren, including myself, Amy, and our cousins, as well as his children, father, and siblings. My half of the inheritance was substantial, about $500,000. It would have allowed me to invest in my future, pay off my student loans, and possibly even start my own business someday. This unexpected windfall and the opportunities it could provide made me thrilled. When the will was read, my parents visibly became irritated. Later, they got me aside and told me that they thought it was unfair that I received an equal share. Amy, who lives in our parents' basement and works part-time at a coffee shop, said she needed the money more because she was struggling. Even though I was surprised, I tried to remain calm. I stressed that Grandpa made this decision. They had no say in how he did it. They insisted that I act morally and give Amy my due share. They were upset when I declined and started guilt-tripping me, calling me unappreciative and selfish. Every occasion that my father could recall in which they had assisted me was discussed. Though I worked part-time to help with funds, Dad prioritized paying for my medically necessary braces, purchasing the absolute minimum of school supplies, and allowing me to live at home while attending college. He conveniently forgot about the car they purchased Amy, the numerous shopping trips, and the fact that they still support her at the age of 25. The situation became increasingly more serious. My father, as executor of the will, decided to handle everything himself. Along with her own inheritance, he claimed that he would interpret Grandpa's intentions and give Amy my entire share. He said Grandpa would have hoped he knew about our unusual predicament. I was broken. This was not only clearly illegal, but it was also a painful reminder of how little my parents thought of me. I tried to argue with them, pointing out that Grandpa had always treated all of his grandchildren equally and was aware of our situation. My mother then accused me of speaking badly of the deceased by saying that Grandpa would have wanted anything other than what my father advocated. I recalled memories of Grandpa encouraging my academic and career objectives, but my parents dismissed them as misinterpretation. They stated that Grandpa wanted to make sure Amy was taken care of and had quietly expressed concerns about her future. When I inquired why he hadn't simply penned the will that way, they didn't respond. Amy, for her part, felt embarrassed in the situation but did not criticize our parents. When I tried to talk to her alone, she simply shrugged and said, "Mom and Dad know best." She was clearly not going to be much help. I sought advice from Grandpa's widow, my paternal grandmother, as I felt misled and wounded. She grew outraged when she found out what was going on. She informed me that my parents had no right to change the will, and that this was not what Grandpa had intended. Grandma sent some material that clarifies the situation. Several years ago, my parents allegedly urged Grandpa to leave everything to Amy in his will. Grandpa had fiercely resisted, stating that all of his grandchildren should be treated equally. He had even inserted a provision in his will stating that anyone who challenged the equitable distribution would lose their peace. Armed with this knowledge, I questioned my parents. Grandma's revelation of their previous attempt to influence the will astonished them. Saying they were simply concerned with Amy's future helped my father explain it, but I could see the guilt on their faces. Grandmother acted immediately away. She contacted the other executors and lawyers listed in her will. She also contacted my father's siblings, who were similarly outraged by what he was proposing. Together, they put an end to my father's scheme and ensured that the will was carried out as intended. Despite their displeasure with me, my parents had to back down. They stated that I should have addressed this internally rather than involving others and accused me of turning the family against me. My mother wailed over how I had divided the family and deceived them. When my father threatened to cut me completely out of their will, I told him I never expected anything from them. Now, if I accept the request, they threatened to cut off all communication. My father even suggested that if I inherited their house, I would not be welcome there. In a particularly low blow, my mother stated that my acceptance of the money shows that I never genuinely loved them and was only looking to profit from their death. The issue divides the extended family. A handful of my cousins are supportive since they are aware of the long-standing favoritism and appreciate my efforts to advocate for myself. Others feel I should have yielded in order to maintain peace, as family harmony takes precedence over financial concerns. Although my father's siblings are clearly on my side, this has affected their relationship as well as my parents. Amy is caught up in all of this. She revealed in me privately that, while she feels horrible and did not ask for it, she is not ready to confront our parents. She's been educated her entire life to rely on them and seek their approval, so I don't blame her completely. Still, a part of me wishes she could help me just once. This situation has brought back a lot of prior pain and hatred. I find myself recalling all the times I was passed over or disregarded in favor of Amy, the birthday parties I missed, the school functions my parents missed, the accomplishments that went unnoticed. This one incident seemed to be bringing to a close a lifetime of injustice. Despite the fact that the entire event has created a schism in the family, I am standing firm and want to claim my inheritance as Grandpa intended. My parents rarely talk to me, and family gatherings have become awkward. I missed our monthly family supper last week for the first time in as long as I could bear the icy shoulders and accusing glares. Despite the stress, a small part of me feels empowered. For the first time in my life, I am confronting my parents' harsh treatment. I'm declaring my worth and refusing to be written off. It's both dreadful and liberating at once. Though I believe I am in the right, the family turmoil is tiring me. I've been experiencing anxiety episodes again, which I hadn't had since college. To cope with all of this stress, I'm considering returning to therapy. Am I the one who should have refused to meet my parents' expectations and accepted my inheritance? Should I have simply given Amy the money to keep the peace? Although I am tired of being the family scapegoat, I am equally afraid of losing my family completely. Any advice or comment would be greatly appreciated. Update. A lot has transpired since my initial post, which was 6 months ago. I'd want to thank everyone for their encouragement and advice. It helped me stay strong throughout tough times. Let me start with the legal side of things. Many of you cautioned me, and I did consult my own attorney. He confirmed that I had every right to inherit, and that what my father attempted was illegal. He assisted me in recording everything and preparing to take legal action if necessary. Fortunately, things did not turn out as expected. My grandmother, together with my father's brothers, and her lawyers resolved issues outside of court. I received my entire money, and the will was carried out exactly as intended. My father was dismissed from his position as executor due to his attempts to manipulate the will. This was a pretty tough process that lasted several weeks. My parents threatened litigation, and there were stressful meetings and angry phone calls, but the law was clear, and they had to back down. The family rupture, which is still ongoing, is significant. My parents initially remained firm in their stance. They accused me of being avaricious and uncaring of my sister. They also attempted to rally other family members against me, spreading charges that I had pressured Grandpa into giving me money. Fortunately, most of the family saw through their deception. About a month after the will was accepted, there was one particularly terrible incident at a family gathering. My parents caused a disturbance when they arrived unannounced, despite the fact that my aunt was hosting and had not invited them. My father began to yell about how I had stolen from Amy and corrupted Grandma against her. My mother tossed an old photo album straight at my feet, claiming that I had wrecked all these great memories. It was unpleasant and terrible. It took several family members to calm things down and persuade my parents to go. My grandmother, bless her heart, proved to be my most significant supporter throughout this process. She told stories about how my grandfather had always been proud of my accomplishments and how he wanted to ensure that all of his grandchildren had equal opportunities. She even claimed Grandpa kept a scrapbook of my successes, including newspaper clippings of academic distinctions, copies of my college acceptance letters, and even the program from the university play that my parents had been late for. This understanding was both sad and amazing. Grandma also offered to help the rest of the family organize their records. She staged a family meeting that excluded my parents, recounting the full history of my parents' prejudice, even episodes I had long forgotten or had never heard of. Having someone finally realize the injustice I had endured for years was gratifying, but it also revived old wounds. About my sister Amy, she finally found her voice throughout all this. She approached me personally and apologized for not standing up for me before after some soul-searching and several lengthy conversations with our grandmother. She claimed she thought our parents' preference was inappropriate, but she was too afraid to challenge it. We talked about our childhoods and how they inspired each of us in tremendous depth and emotional intensity. Amy stated that being the favorite child was not as enjoyable as it seems. She never learned to stand on her own 2 feet and felt a lot of pressure to meet our parents' expectations. She told us of times when she wanted to do things on her own, but our parents would step in and handle everything for her, depriving her of the opportunity to grow and learn from her mistakes. This conversation marked a significant turning point in our relationship. We began to rebuild the sibling bond that our parents' prejudice had severed. Just the two of us have been meeting for coffee on a regular basis to discuss and encourage each other during this family issue. Everyone was taken aback when she announced that she planned to use her inheritance to pay for education. She claimed that watching me stand up for myself inspired her to start directing her own life. Once she had selected what she wanted to study, she enrolled in a nearby community college with the intention of transferring to a 4-year university. Our parents put out a shocked gasp. I suppose they were aware that their babying had not benefited Amy. My parents' reactions to all of this have been diverse and changing. They initially assaulted both of us angrily. They tried to guilt Amy into dropping out of college to support the family because they said I turned her against them. When their previous plan proved unproductive, they altered it. After numerous lengthy conversations with my grandma and witnessing Amy's remarkable transformation, my mother realized how detrimental their actions had been. She has made some tentative steps toward reconciliation, including starting therapy to address her issues. She contacted us to apologize, admitting that she had been unfair and requested the opportunity to make things right. It's a gradual process, and while I'm cautiously optimistic, I'm also setting firm restrictions. Unfortunately, my father has been less willing to own his mistakes. He is still outraged and feels like the victim in all of this. He has been cool toward Amy since she decided to go to college and hardly speaks to me. He has tried to control us several times, threatening to sell our childhood home if we don't come to our senses or forgiving us if we admit we were wrong. Although we are both standing firm, it hurts to see him alienate both of his children in this manner. The dynamics within the extended family have shifted considerably. I now reside closer to my father's siblings, who have been really helpful, and my grandma. Hearing from my aunts and uncles about how they dealt with my father's hard behavior throughout the years has helped to alleviate my loneliness in this fight. I've also formed stronger ties with several of my cousins who have supported me. Starting a monthly cousin meal helps us to catch up without the drama of the older generations. For myself, I have made good use of my fortune. After paying off my college loans, I now have a great sense of financial freedom. Working with a financial advisor, I developed a diverse investment portfolio. I've also saved some money in case I decide to start my own business in the future. I'm looking into opening a community center that offers competitively cost mental health treatments and financial literacy lectures. However, for me, purchasing therapy for myself and volunteering to do the same for Amy has been the most meaningful use of the funds. We're both learning to set fair boundaries with our parents and attempting to heal from our childhood experiences. Despite the long road ahead, I already feel like I'm growing in my understanding and ability to overcome emotional neglect and long-term prejudice. This entire procedure has brought some unexpected positive changes into my life. I now know a lot about setting boundaries and defending myself. Even though I know I did the right thing, it has not been easy, and there are still difficult days. I feel proud of myself for defying guilt and pressure. Among the more unexpected outcomes has been a shift in my career route. Dealing with all of this family discord and going through treatment has made me realize my own love for helping individuals who, dealing with all of this family turmoil and treatment has shown me how motivated I am to help others who have experienced similar family dynamics. I am currently considering returning to school to specialize in adult offspring of emotionally immature parents and working as a family therapist. I have also been assisting children from difficult family situations at a neighboring youth facility. It is extremely rewarding to be able to provide the encouragement and support that I wished I had received as a child. I'm even thinking of establishing a scholarship fund for youngsters in similar circumstances with some of my inheritance. My contact with Amy has gotten better. We celebrate Siblings Day once a month by doing something fun, just the two of us. Our hiking and picnic last month were the most relaxed and connected we'd felt since we were kids. Without our parents' influence, we are gradually rebuilding our relationship on our own terms. Things with my parents continue to be hard. My mother has tried to rebuild our relationship. She has been attending therapy on a regular basis, and she has begun to realize some of the consequences of her bias. We've had a couple one-on-one lunches when we've had some honest, albeit challenging discussions about our history and future plans. Though it is not perfect, there is clearly room for improvement. Nonetheless, my father continues to be resistant to change. He still claims he has done nothing illegal and that Amy and I should be grateful. He refused to be in the same room as me, so he skipped several family occasions. Though it hurts, I'm attempting to let go of my desire to force him to see things differently or control his reactions. Grandma has become a pillar of strength for Amy and me. She has been telling us more stories about our grandfather and how proud he was of us for standing up for ourselves. She has always advocated for justice and understanding, making her an excellent mediator in family disputes. The entire experience has taught me a lot about what it truly means to be family. I've come to realize that sometimes the family you choose is more encouraging than the one you were reared in. Along with forming a close circle of friends who have been extremely supportive throughout this road, I have gotten closer to my aunts, uncles, and cousins who have stood by me. Setting limits and exercising self-care have become increasingly important to me. I'm getting better at saying no to situations that jeopardize my mental health, and I no longer feel awful about putting my personal well-being first. I was so focused with gaining my parents' approval that I had always avoided exploring new interests and activities. To those in the same situation, I would advise you not to let anyone make you feel terrible about collecting what is rightfully yours. Even if it causes disagreement, it is reasonable to defend oneself. Though family dynamics may be complicated, you are entitled to fair treatment. Remember, it is never too late to begin living the life you deserve. Consult a therapist if required. Surround yourself with positive individuals. And don't be afraid to set boundaries. Your value is determined by who you are personally, not how your family treats you. I'd like to thank each of you again for your suggestions and encouragement. It meant more than you could have imagined during a particularly difficult time. Despite the difficulties, I am optimistic about the future and feel a sense of self-assurance that I have not felt in years. I am excited about where this new chapter of my life will take me, and I am determined to break the cycle of favoritism and develop stronger relationships with my own future family members.